Is it really an investment if you're not risking your own money?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I would say that does not meet the requirements for what you would call an investment.
Yeah, that's just a straight-up subsidy.
Free Talk Live.
And it's Super Bowl weekend, apparently, as I understand it.
What do you mean, apparently?
That's what I've heard.
It is Super Bowl weekend.
Yeah, I have no plans.
I cannot tell by your body paint what team you are supporting.
I couldn't even tell you who's playing. I think I heard a rumor that the Patriots are back in.
Damn Skippy.
Okay, that's about all I know.
And I just said damn Skippy because it means as much to me as it does to you. That's okay. But
I don't know if you're
like
damning Skippy, along. Who was the quarterback of the other team.
Skippy? I don't know if there's a quarterback Skippy. But I'll tell you who is going to be a very, very happy guy. The big winner tomorrow.
You already can pick the winner, is what you're saying.
I am. It's not going to be the Patriots. It's not going to be the Rams.
Okay.
It is going to be Arthur Blank.
Is that his actual last name?
Yes, that's his actual. And he started. Mr. Blank. Mr. Blank started a little hardware store years ago called Home Depot.
No,
you may have heard of Home Depot before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Mr. Blank is definitely the one who is going to do the best tomorrow, on or off field. It doesn't matter. Falcons owner Arthur Blank will collect all of the Super Bowl. What is it? 53.
I have no idea.
Super Bowl 53 revenue, even though taxpayers own the stadium. This is brought to us by FEE, the Foundation for Economic Education.
That's a great site, fee.org.
It is, and they have been knocking it out of the park lately.
They always do.
I know. I usually bring in a FEE story a week or every other week. Today, I wasn't even really paying attention. They were just all good stories, and it was 3 out of 4 were all FEE stories. On Sunday, the eyes of the nation will fall on Atlanta's brand new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, site of the 53rd Super Bowl. As players and spectators pour into the city, they'll be dazzled by a state-of-the-art retractable roof and an enormous wraparound digital screen. What will be less apparent to thousands of spectators and millions of television viewers is a different kind of innovation, a carefully concealed legal clause that will privatize future profits on the publicly funded stadium. The gnarled history of building professional sports stadiums with taxpayer funds has attracted...
It's a long one. I mean, this happens all the time.
It does.
I think it would be a challenge to actually find stadiums that were privately funded in the U.S.
God, and somebody did bring up an example. There is, and I want to say it's Green Bay or somewhere in Wisconsin. I don't quote me on that one.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. That actually rings a bell. I feel like we've talked about that in the past.
I think you're right.
And that may be the only one.
Yep. Taxpayer funds have attracted some unwelcome attention in recent years, leading team owners and mayors to become more circumspect in how they publicize the millions they receive from cities in the name of economic development.
See, that's what it's all about, Chris.
That's all it is.
You just hate business, don't you?
Yes.
Because this is designed to help. This is designed to help those businesses in downtown, wherever it is.
And revitalize.
Where is this happening, by the way? I'm sorry.
In Atlanta.
Atlanta, okay.
You paid no attention to
I remember hearing that now that you mention it, but yeah, no.
It is in Atlanta. Yeah, this is its latest thing. And, of course, the story's going to get into it, but I guarantee you, I've read enough of these. You know, we promised to revitalize downtown. We are going to bring tourism. We are going to bring jobs.
Well, isn't that what happens when you throw money? When you just throw money around at big businessmen in an arbitrary geographic area? Doesn't that make everything better?
It's that is what they would like to believe, and I do believe.
Well, what I want to know is does anyone out there actually listening to the show believe that?
Right, that's a good question.
Who buys this?
Right. Well, have stadiums brought economic booms to a large town in your state? You know, is it your capital? Maybe you live in one of these cities that just recently got a big, shiny new stadium. Has it brought manna from heaven? I
think that there's been some studies and that shows that it really doesn't do much of anything. But also, and it sounds like you have some of that information. But also, even if it did benefit the businesses, and I'm sure to some extent it does, like if you run a restaurant right across the street from the stadium, you're probably going to do a little better than you had previously. But it's at the cost of everyone else. It's at the cost of every other restaurant in town.
Right.
It's at the cost of every business and every taxpayer in that city. That extra business that is given to the adjacent businesses to the stadium. That's not fair.
This reminds me of playing SimCity, a game I used to enjoy until I realized what a horrible central planner I am. But that is literally it. You're playing SimCity. You're designing things in certain areas, and you throw in a big shiny new stadium, and everything goes up around it.
Boom.
But everything drops everywhere else because now they need something else to. Now you're competing with yourself. Your city is competing with yourself, and that makes no sense. Numerous studies demonstrate that promises of, quote, economic development, unquote, around stadiums rarely materialize.
Yep.
Tax revenues don't rise despite huge public investments, and per capita income is actually damaged by the presence of a stadium. At best, dining and entertainment dollars are relocated from elsewhere in the city. Nevertheless, with threats of moving the franchise to Atlanta's suburbs or even to Los Angeles, Mayor Kasem Reed and franchise owner Arthur Blank extracted the promise of nearly $250 million in taxpayer funds to keep the team in town. Now, that's another thing. They all love to play this. We need a new stadium, and I'm sorry.
Did you say $250 million?
$250 million. Yeah.
Nice.
It's a good payday. Wait, there's even better paydays coming up.
Okay.
But this is the game that mayors and city councils and NFL team owners, it's every sport. It's not just the NFL, but they all threaten to leave.
Right.
Well,
you won't have a team anymore,
exactly.
And everyone knows how important it is to have a team. There's no identity for the people. The people couldn't possibly bond with one another over anything else.
Well, the Lakers have always been in Los Angeles, except when they were in, Minneapolis or something.
Hell if I know.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of the movie Basketball. Did you ever see that?
No, but isn't that by the South Park guys?
It is. It's by the South Park guys. But it's sort of this backyard game that sprung up because fans were leaving all sports because every team was moving. They were all moving. They were just going to the highest bidder.
Well,
Players
it's meaningless
were moving.
anyway because, look, and I think it was Mark who pointed this out before, even if it's a team that has stayed and originated in and stayed in the area, let's say Tampa Bay Buccaneers or something like that, they're still not the same team they were the year previous, and probably 0 to 1% of the players are actually from the region. They're bringing them in from all over the place, and they get shuffled around everywhere.
Right.
So it's not like there's anything regional about the team except for the owner.
Yeah, well, you do have some hometown pride. I can understand that. I can see that. I had,
but
pride in my hometown.
Those people aren't from your hometown. The players aren't.
Right. But they're playing for me, and that's what's important.
Maybe the cheerleaders are from the area. Maybe.
Well, yeah, maybe.
That's possible.
I'll have to do a in-depth investigation of NFL cheerleaders to find this out.
It's an important task.
There we go. And it's been delegated to me. So the billions in revenues the Falcons will generate in ticket sales and advertising won't pay back the city for its maligned investment. The NFL franchise will pay neither rent nor property taxes.
Wow, that's a sweet deal. And there's more to the story, right? So we'll share that here in moments. And again, my question is, does anybody out there actually think this is good? That these taxpayer-funded stadiums are desirable in the world of the Super Bowl, specifically the stadium itself that is paid for by taxpayers. And apparently the taxpayers, meaning the government, won't be seeing any profits out of it. All the profits that it makes will be going straight to the stadium owner.
Straight to Home Depot.
Yeah, or the team owner or whatever. I'm not sure who owns the place, but
but this is not unusual. This is how these deals are usually rigged, and you can bet along the way a lot of politicians and a lot of their favorite building contractors got their palms greased.
There's some big money that goes into these things.
Happen.
So if you want to comment on that, you're welcome to do so. As I predicted, Chris, not a single person in the audience has bothered to call in and say they support this kind of taxpayer-funded sports stadium deal, which, of course, happens all across the United States. And despite, presumably, it being unpopular, because if it were a popular idea, surely we'd get a caller to defend it, but presumably it's unpopular, but yet it happens anyway. Because these governments can do whatever it is they want to do. And what are you going to do about it?
Right, and who's going to vote against it? When your politicians come in, we've been in talks with, and we thought our team was going to leave. I mean, we thought we'd lose the mighty Mud Ducks or whoever it happens to be. Mm-hmm. But, the hard work of your mayor and city council, we have negotiated what we feel is a great deal. Heck, it's better than we thought it was. When we ran our numbers, I mean, we're going to have quadrillions of dollars in tax revenue flowing in. We'll probably be giving tax cuts left and right because of all the money this is going to generate, the jobs, and the jobs.
See, that's important.
Yeah, and
we need to trump up some jobs by forcing everybody in the area to pay to create them.
Right.
By taxing the rest of the businesses in the city to transfer wealth to apparently the owner of Home Depot or the founder of Home Depot. I guess he didn't make enough money when he was, raking it in off of Home Depot. He needs to get even more free money from the taxpayers.
Well, I don't fault the guy for making a boatload of money on Home Depot.
No, great.
Good for him. But the whole thing is all these teams have figured out their own secret sauce. Mm-hmm. The secret sauce is you always threaten to leave.
Yep.
You hold out until you get the best possible, most lucrative deal because governments will fall for this left and right. Now, I have no doubt that Arthur Blank absolutely knows what the effect is because he negotiated this contract, or his people did, and he got a sweetheart deal. But government, bean counters, I mean, really? Politicians, do you think they realize how devastating? I think half of them probably think this is a great thing.
Well, right. So these stadiums are already losers as far as financial is concerned. I mean, they're screwing the taxpayers over to a tremendous amount of money, billions of dollars in this case. And then if they lose the team later, so, they stay for 5 years or 10 years or whatever, they lose the team, you now have a stadium. And it's generating no revenue.
Right.
So, I mean, it was already a bad deal because all the revenue is going into the pocket of the team owner, but now it's generating no revenue whatsoever for anybody.
Well, you can fix that, Ian. That's easy enough. All you got to do is get out your checkbook and start promising, 10-year tax windows for a new team to come in, or maybe it's using the old stadium for a new
sport. Yeah, but who wants an old stadium?
Well, there's a lot of different teams, and there's a lot of different leagues and things like that. So I'm sure somebody's out there and somebody will take it, and you're just going to sweeten the pot. And better yet, if you come to East Bumducky or wherever we're talking about.
Bumducky, that's a good one.
We, in 5 years, will build you a new stadium too. Right. Yeah. So it will just repeat.
Just bend over because they've got you over a barrel, and they're just not going to stop. This is crazy. You've got a story from the Foundation for Economic Education about this Atlanta stadium where it's owned apparently some sort of partnership between the city and the owner of Home Depot?
I don't think so. I'm sure both were involved, but, it ends up being a publicly owned building.
But he somehow gets the profits, the Home Depot owner.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
But what'd you think, the taxpayers were going to get paid back?
Nope, I didn't think that for a moment.
They paid $250 million just to keep the team there.
Wow.
And then they had to pony up for the stadium.
Apparently $600 million, is that right?
Yeah.
For the stadium?
It's not bad.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
The billions in revenue the Falcons will generate in ticket sales and advertising won't pay the city back for its malinvestment. The NFL franchise will pay neither rent nor property taxes. So what a deal.
Is it really an investment if you're not risking your own money?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I would say that does not meet the requirements for what you would call an investment.
Yeah, that's just a straight-up subsidy.
Right. And that's all this is. Yeah. This is the politicians of Atlanta taking a bet, but they're not covering their bet. They're letting the taxpayers cover the bet. So all the risks and costs of the stadium have been socialized, and its profits will be privatized. An important distinction there. This is the frequent pattern of collusion between local government officials.
That's not total fascism, right? And that's not socialism all the way. It's like kind of a mix between both of them, right? Because if socialism is government ownership of the means of production, this kind of is that, but it's also not.
Right, so, but it then gives it to
a private owner.
Right. I think fascism would be closest. I mean, none of it's possible without government involvement.
Yeah.
Yet the private sector. But who are we kidding me? Who are we kidding? I mean, the politicians are going to do great too.
That's true.
The Falcons general manager turned CEO Rich McKay extorted a new publicly funded stadium for the people of Tampa before turning his sights on Atlanta. When originally announced, the stadium was slated to cost the city $200 million.
Wow, it went up by threefold.
Oh, it's cost overruns.
Yeah, well, it's
some
to be expected. Whenever it's a government deal, it's going to be overruns. There's going to be costs that are way higher. They're always going to run into trouble. The construction company's going to be like, "Oh, well, we thought it was going to be $200 million, but
so here's
we're in the middle of it. It looks like it's going to be three times that."
And this is the first thing they sold. Was it's going to cost $200 million.
Yep.
With remaining costs borne by the Atlanta Falcons and team owner Arthur Blank.
How'd they change
no
that
one should begrudge Blank for his $4.6 billion net worth, which he earned as co-founder of Home Depot. But we might reasonably expect him to finance his own pet project rather than fleecing ordinary Georgians already struggling to make ends meet. Proponents of the deal claim that the Atlanta residents won't be footing the bill since the public funds were coming from a new hotel tax, which is primarily paid by visitors. In the fine print of the stadium agreement, though, was a subtle clause that negated the cost cap altogether. All future funds from the hotel tax would be put into a revenue-sharing agreement benefiting the stadium, the team, and its owner. The cost of maintaining and upgrading the stadium will remain taxpayer-funded in perpetuity.
So this hotel tax continues to be funneled into both the city and the owner's pockets?
Oh, no. All future funds from the hotel tax would be put into a revenue-sharing agreement benefiting the stadium, the team, and the owner. So I guess the stadium, quote-unquote,
is the city,
becomes
right?
It becomes sort of self-funding, sort of, but certainly not by any stretch. What
do you think about that, Chris? I mean, it's just the hotel tax. See, that's not so bad, right?
The people from out of town are going to pay it anyway, right?
That's the idea. You got to come to Atlanta for business. If you're going to come to see the Falcons or whatever, you're going to fly in. You're flying in for seeing family members. You got to stay somewhere. And if we tax every single hotel in the area, most people aren't going to, they're not going to go outside the Atlanta downtown to stay somewhere because you don't have to travel too far. You have to pay for an Uber to get in. I mean, people are going to stay in those hotels no matter what. So, see, this isn't on the backs of the Atlanta taxpayers. Everything's fine now.
I would say that the hotel tax will be paid by people from out of town.
Yeah.
And I will venture a fair number of Atlanta politicians for at least a couple hours at a time. That would be my guess.
But no, I mean, doesn't that make everything better? I mean, if it's true that all these hundreds of millions of dollars came from one hotel tax,
right?
Which is amazing if that's really the truth.
A lot of tourism down there.
Then there you go. I mean, what's the problem with that? Is there anything wrong? It seems less objectionable.
It does seem less objectionable, but I think that the part that Fee has a real issue with is then splitting the profits more heavily towards Arthur Blank and the Atlanta Falcons team. They're the ones who make out the best out of all this. Yes. So a portion goes to the city. That is true, but why should a portion of any public works go towards a private corporation?
Sure. I mean, look, on its face, I was just bringing up the claim, but it's still wrong because it's still a transfer of wealth. Okay, in this case, it's transferring wealth from the people who are just trying to come to the area to visit and charging them more. And I don't know how much more, but I've been to some, New York City, for instance, the hotel tax is insane.
Sure.
I mean, it's, $50 a night.
Yeah.
Or something crazy like that.
And at $500 a seat, is this really going to benefit the average person in Atlanta? Are they going to get to go out and see a game?
Right. And not everybody traveling to Atlanta is some well-heeled business person.
Sure.
There's plenty of people traveling to Atlanta who just need a place to stay. They or for whatever reason they're there to visit family, or they're flying or whatever, and they would prefer to stay in as cheap of an accommodation as possible. Well, guess what? You just made the cheapest accommodations more expensive because of the sports stadium that 90% of the people, probably 95% of the people who ever visit Atlanta will never go and see. There won't be if you're going to Atlanta, it's probably not to go to the sports stadium. There's probably a zillion other reasons why you're going to a big city like that.
A lot of great reasons to go to Atlanta.
So all of those people who are never going to go to the stadium are subsidizing the games for everybody who does. And, of course, they're not going to make the tickets any cheaper. That's for sure.
Well, some bright news. All the money from ticket sales and concessions I was going to say that goes to the people too, but that actually all goes to blank too. So he actually, like, if you buy a beer in the stadium, Arthur Blank owes you a thank you on that.
And he's going to get right on that. He's going to sign a personal card for you.
In addition to its portion of the stadium itself, Atlanta shelled out $30 million in sales tax breaks for construction, $24 million in land value, and a yet undetermined sum to build the elaborate snake-like bridge above the 4-lane Northside Drive. This is known as the $27 million bridge too far.
I have a story about that as well. I was holding it for tomorrow night, so I don't want to get into it. We've definitely already hit some corruption pretty hard here, and that one's pretty ridiculous. But there's actually a little bit of good news. Apparently, there is going to be another privately run stadium, and Reason.com has a story about apparently the Los Angeles Rams.
Sweet.
Building one without using taxpayer funding. My God, it's actually possible. What do you know? We're coming up here. This is Free Talk Live. We've been talking about government corruption around these taxpayer-funded stadiums, which it just needs to end. There's no reason for this. When you get into business, you're supposed to take a risk.
Right.
Like, that's the whole point of getting into business is you're putting yourself out there. You're putting your idea out there, whether it be to open a restaurant or a stadium or, you're manufacturing something or whatever it is that your vision is. You have a vision for what you think the marketplace is going to respond to, and you
hope you're right.
You put your own money or your time and effort and other people's money who voluntarily gave you money, investors, into this idea, and you give it your best shot. And if it doesn't work out, only you and your investors lose out. But in the case of these taxpayer-funded stadiums, woo-hoo, just let it ride. It doesn't matter because it wasn't a dime of your own money. It was all funded by taxpayers. It was all funded through coercion, which is how taxes are funded. If you don't pay the tax, they're going to steal your home from you or possibly throw you in a prison cell.
Right.
So funded through the threat of violence, you just get a free stadium. And you get all the money that you can possibly make from that point on. You don't have to return on investment. You don't have to pay back a debt. Nope. You don't have to pay back investors or anything like that. I mean, it is just the craziest thing. And not a single person can defend this because they haven't bothered to call in. Now, I understand if you support this, you're already winning. Because in most places, this is what's happening.
Right.
But the news that I have to follow up your story, which is about the corruption in Atlanta surrounding the new stadium there, the $600 million stadium where all the profits are going to roll right into the pockets of apparently one of the founders of Home Depot, Mr. Blank, Master Blank. Eric Boehm over at the Hit and Run blog on Reason.com points out that apparently there is another example of a non-taxpayer-funded, meaning privately funded stadium that's being built, and it's actually apparently the Los Angeles Rams who are doing it.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.